It's Ivan Maltsev from 3X Capital, and today with me is Francesco Biviano, who is Chief Operating Officer uh, from Arcton. Wow,
Thanks. Thanks a lot for having me. Thanks a lot. Happy to be here.
sure. That's great that we have met in Tuesday and we discussed so many things, and I was extremely
Yep.
excited about what you are building. I would love to know
Thanks.
more about you, your partner, your
Sure.
story. So could you please tell more?
Absolutely. So let's say it's like I'll start about my background quickly a little bit. I have a background in finance actually. I worked a couple of years as a data analyst at eBay and then in another company in Geneva, smaller company. I was assisting the CFO and yeah, working always on data analytics. And then later I did a certificate of advanced studies at the University of Geneva or in blockchain. So it was really to learn about programming Solidity. And that's when I actually met my co-founder, who's Merens Derungs. He's a capital market lawyer who did a PhD on digital shares and tokenized assets. There was a new thing here in Switzerland a couple of years ago. It was actually the first country which allowed this, and he did a PhD. We were working basically on the same project, which was tokenization of assets, of shares, and then basically we decided to join forces because we were completely aligned with our mission and vision of what it should be the new status quo of startup investing. And therefore we joined forces.
Cool, great story. And when you have started to work together, and can you please tell more about some results and some partnerships that you have already achieved?
Yeah. So we started working together with was late 2021, 2021. Honestly, 2021 we started working on this late 2021, and then at the beginning exactly we were. I mean, still you're still starting to figure out how to put all the pieces together, how to do it, and throughout this year and the past years, we exactly managed to close some important partnerships. First of all, we got incubated at the Swiss Stock Exchange in Switzerland, which is the biggest fintech incubator. Actually, that's where I'm actually calling you from. I'm at the Swiss Stock Exchange, which they have the biggest fintech incubator in Switzerland. We later closed. This was exactly for more validating our idea and our project, and to start getting into this mood of startup mood. That's really helped us a lot kick it off. Later, we had to build exactly other relationship which allowed us to actually execute Arcton, and that was clearly more complicated. But we established a partnership with Camelot, which is a decentralized exchange. That was a really important one because it really allowed that also someone believed in this possibility that we were able to actually have tokenized assets on a DEX. So like signaling a partnership with them was extremely important. Later on, also getting the startup side, so getting also started closing some deals with the startups that were looking to try this new fundraising method where their shares are liquid. We're going to go more into details after. And then lately also closing our own financing round with three business angels, which exactly have supported us, and they are backing us, and they believe in what we are doing. So this is a little bit of the world partnerships.
Yeah, thank you, Francesco. I also believe that something that you are building is very needed. And together with my team, we were discussing several times how we can tokenize the startup shares and make them more liquid.
Yeah,
I think it would be interesting for us to understand in simple words how the process in your organization is structured from
hmm
the moment when investor saw the opportunity in your website to the moment when
yeah,
the investor exit. Maybe highlight some
sure. I can
milestones.
go through the customer journey. Just for an intro, like Arcton is a crowdfunding platform is an equity crowdfunding platform. So we have startups raise funds, Swiss startups at the moment because of the regulation. So we are still restricted to Switzerland, but later on we will be open also to startups outside Switzerland. And then so once the startup has raised funds from the community, we have a community of retail investors and business angels. that love investing in startups. So we are a marketplace. Once the fund is raised, then actually the shares actually get tokenized, and these later are traded on our partner Camelot, which is a decentralized exchange. And so afterwards, investors can trade the shares of the startups as if this startup was listed on a stock exchange, basically. So that's in a nutshell Arcton. And so how does the process works? So from an investor side, from the investor side, it's fairly simple. You'll probably in the network of Arcton, we will probably post some news about new startups raising, and you basically to enter, you just have to register on our platform. You pass simple KYC, and then basically you're up to go. You can decide whether to invest with a credit card, with a bank transfer, or even with USDC. So we really offer all types of methods to make sure like these are web 2 startup mostly. I mean, they can have web 3 components, but they don't need to have a token. We because otherwise there is too much confusion whether if someone has tokenized shares and utility tokens. So we only work with companies that have intention to issue just tokenize their equity. So once the campaign is running, is normally open for a week, 1 week and a half. Then the investor can invest. Once the fundraise is completed, if it succeeded, there is a soft cap and there is a hard cap. So once the soft cap is met, then it's good to go. The campaign it's closed. Once it's completed, basically the investor can redeem the tokenized shares. It's going to take a couple of days, but the investor can then go on the page, and we will actually will be able to get it on its wallet. So you can redeem it and claim it on and have it on your wallet. At that point in time, the shares of the startup will be tokenized. We do everything internally. Maybe I can go more into the details after how we do it. And the liquidity is seated on Camelot. So the startup itself provide the initial liquidity. So a portion of what they raise actually goes into the liquidity pool to have an initial liquidity. And then, so once this is done, investor can start basically trading. They claim their shares, they can start trading. There is a little bit of a vesting schedule. 30% it's unlocked since the beginning, and the rest 70% is unlocked every 2 months over a course of 1 year. So, and then if people don't want to pass a KYC, they can just buy it on the secondary market. Camelot is DEX, permissionless. So, yeah.
Wow, amazing. Love it. And what types of investors are showing the most interest to tokenize shares?
So actually, it's really interesting, this question, because that's the thing that we've been trying to nail down the most. So at the beginning, we were like, okay, Web3 investor, degens, these are definitely the target audience because they know what the DEX is. They are used to work to use DEXs in general. So we thought there was Web3 degen investors. Those were so we started heavily marketing on them. Until we realized with a fundraise which didn't get so successful. It got traction, didn't get so successful as we expected, but we realized that after some interviews also that Web3 user degens were not necessarily the right target audience, because they were more people. This kind of audience was more, they didn't think that they could make so much money in investing in Web2 startups, basically. Well, so we realized this, and then we started like now our marketing is much more focused on LinkedIn, on reaching out to business angels. So, and also in the old base, we did a lot of market testing, and the perfect audience is someone with a financial background, so who has invested before in bonds, stocks, traditional assets, is now getting exposure to the crypto world. Like, maybe has invested a little bit in crypto, maybe has a wallet, has done a little bit of things. The age is between 35 and 50. But yeah, finance background, interest in crypto, 35 to 50 years old. That's basically the business, and it's potentially a business angel or business angels. Business angels. So we have this finance background, or as well business angels who are really interested into this. These two are the most likely. and interested. Yeah.
Interesting. And what type of accreditation investors should have, and where they should be based in order to comply with their
Sure.
regulation?
So actually, we are open to there is no restriction on the type of investors that can invest. So basically, anyone is really, we don't have a restriction on accredited or non-accredited investors. Any retail investor, anyone who would like to invest, can actually participate in the fundraising. We normally we know exactly the fundraise start from 500 francs, Swiss francs. So people can really start investing even with from 500 Swiss francs. That's the minimum that we put. And then yeah, that's simple as that. And there is no and they can be spread pretty much everywhere. We have a little bit of some restriction on certain countries, US for instance. So US investors, unfortunately, in the primary market, they cannot invest. So they might, because of SEC regulation, it makes it complicated. And countries who are currently at war. So beside this, like everyone can invest. And even if if the US, you're in the US, you can theoretically, I mean, use into the secondary market directly. I mean, but yeah, so this is the only restriction that we have. But yeah, it's really also in Switzerland to operate a crowdfunding platform. You don't need a license, so it makes it very, very simple.
Wonderful. And as I remember, to set up a legal structure, you need only 50,000 Swiss francs. That's
To
the
set
minimum.
up a company, yes, here. I mean, if you want to set up a company here, so you're gonna have so if you want, so basically what you can tokenize in Switzerland is a what I think in English is a LLC, limited liability company, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Yes.
So that's what you have to set up in Switzerland if you want to tokenize it. Well, you can also tokenize other kinds of assets, but let's say you want to tokenize a company, that has to be an AG, what's called here an AG, which is a LLC. So basically, the requirements are quite straightforward. 50,000 Swiss franc needs to be deposited in a capital deposit account at the Swiss bank. So 50K. Then you're gonna have some notaries and commercial registry fees, which range from 2K probably 200,000 to 2,000 Swiss francs. Yeah, maybe 3,000, like going crazy. But yeah, so basically you can probably do all the setup of a company here for 53,000 theoretically. I mean, yeah, we can do it. Then you have some recurrent cost because you have to do some accounting internally per year. But yeah, that's basically the minimum. Yeah.
Understood. And also, I'm curious to know how does tokenizing shares impact the governance and the cap table of the startup?
Right. Actually, it's a good question. So what we have now, so we have exactly, because one of the things is that once you have a lot of investor, you would like to have a more cleaner cap table than having thousands of investors into on your cap table. So what we are doing now, so to actually tokenize. So basically, we are syndicating all the investors. So we are creating a syndication of the investors. So basically, we pool them all together, and then basically we as Arcton, we act as the operator and the investor on the cap table of the startup. But anyway, all the investor actually have all the rights. They're entitled to the shareholder rights and everything. But basically, just to keep it simple and organized, the governance structure of the startup, they don't want to, they cannot handle like hundreds of people on their cap table. Therefore, we organize this syndication. Also, once we're gonna go more European, we are setting up an SPV in Switzerland to actually handle all these grouping of startups of investors. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Very cool. Also wanted to understand what are the liquidity dynamics on the DEX after the listing? Maybe you had
Yeah.
some observations, and how many
Yeah.
tokens you have already launched?
Yes. So basically, we work with this with the University of Basel on the secondary market model, and with Camelot as well, because they have a lot of experience doing IDOs and IDOs basically. So we worked a lot on this, because the issue there is that at the beginning you provide too little liquidity, and then you have spikes in prices, and people execute small order. And so basically, what you need to have is a little bit of a healthy liquidity. So basically, how it works is exactly the startup raise funds, and 20% of what they raise is going to be converted into USDC. And we have a partner for doing this, clearly. And then basically, this part, clearly, we paired with some tokenized shares, is going to go into the liquidity pool. So how much should it go into a liquidity pool? A liquidity pool, to be stable enough, we should have at least a liquidity pool which has in it cumulative 300,000, 350,000 to 500,000 worth of asset in dollar terms. So between USDC and tokenized shares. This is what it ensures at the beginning of healthy liquidity, that you don't have too many issues. So that's why the rounds that we have to do when startups wants to have a secondary market, a liquid secondary market, they needs to be in the range of 1 million, 750,000, 1 million. What we are also doing is also rounds without tokenization. I mean, because sometimes some startups really don't want it. So we are really open also to the possibility. Okay, you just want to do a normal round. Uh, Fair enough. It's okay. So we also can do a traditional crowdfunding round. But yeah, going back to the secondary market, then once this is seeded, then exactly the startup, then people can start trading, and yeah, that's basically.
Cool. And regarding crowdfunding without tokenization, so you can work with startups from all other countries. Am I right?
Yeah. So we are a bit more flexible. Yes. There you are a bit more flexible. Still, it's a bit different, because every country has its own regulation. So it's interesting, because still every country has its own regulation on how you can offer equity of company. So if we were to do like Kickstarter, they don't do equity crowdfunding. They do crowdfunding, but they don't do equity crowdfunding. They do reward. It's called reward crowdfunding. Basically, you basically donate money, and maybe you're gonna get a product or something. So that's very easy. You don't have legal obligation, legal geographical borders. That's very simple. Once you start dealing with financial products like equity, then the law of the specific country gets much into your way. So, like for instance, we wanted to do a fundraise for a German startup. It will be a bit more complicated. It will be, because also we will need to have a adapted contract. So now we have contracts which, because my co-founder is a lawyer, he's a Swiss lawyer, so he knows very well the contract that needs to be on the Swiss law. So if you have to do Germany, we will need a little bit of an advice on the legal side. The other point is that when you do crowdfunding, you cannot advertise equity or into other countries. So you cannot do specific. So let's say that exactly we were to do a fundraise for a German startup here. No, even actually, let's do even the contrary. Even for a Swiss startup, we cannot do advertisement of this equity crowdfunding in Germany without the necessary legal paperwork that we will need to comply with their law to do it. So as of today, it's quite restricted in the sense you can do general marketing, but you cannot target one country. There is a new law which we are applying. We have applied already, and it's called the SESP license, and it's a law to actually harmonize crowdfunding across all Europe. And so we are working with an Austrian regulator to get it. So this avoid all these problems of having to comply with a different country, with a different law of crowdfunding of each country. So this is very simple. So there are ways to go around, but equity crowdfunding is still very country center because of these laws.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, that's beautiful that you will have this license because we have
Yeah,
many startups that are based in Europe. So
yeah,
usually
exactly.
Web3 startups, they select Estonia for the registration. A
Hmm.
lot. I'm curious to understand also better your business model. So how you earn money right now, and
Yeah,
what will be your model in the future? Maybe
yeah,
you
exactly, exactly.
grow.
We also, for us at the moment, the crowdfunding platform is a way to kick it off. So basically, at the moment, we have basically two sources of revenue, which is a 5% fee on the fundraised amount. So we have the startup raising funds, we take 5% if it's successful, only if it's successful. And then we have an exit fee on the startup. So if the startup then gets sold, get acquired, we have an exit fee or a carried interest, how is it called in technical terms. Well, so basically now we have these two sources of revenue. What the future for us is developing a compliant, legal compliant decentralized exchange. So with proper KYC and so the future is for us is probably not relying on Camelot anymore, but really developing our own decks where actually then we can have all the we can make exactly all the we can add a new stream of revenues from the secondary market transaction, which today are only on Camelot. But yet the future is for us is actually having a compliant Swiss regulated DEX. This is for us it's really important that we just don't want to create a DEX. We wanted to have it be compliant for actually enabling other asset types to be on it. Yeah.
Mhm. Interesting. Yeah, great roadmap. I'm also curious to understand what is the main criteria to select a startup for your platform
Yeah.
and how a startup can apply.
As of today, so we do exactly so. At the beginning, it's just we do a due diligence in the sense that so we are here incubated at the Swiss stock this fintech incubator. So they help us actually with the due diligence of the startup. They have a lot of expertise. They've
Mhm.
scouted over 300 startups, so they're really good in that. And there is one person who is in touch with us and help us doing this basically. But basically, at the beginning, it's more looking at the metrics, the competition, the market, the team, and of course we ask access if they have the financials. So normally the startup that raise on Arcton are a seed to Series A stage. Seed stage will be it's right the perfect. You already have a product market fit. You maybe have a little bit of revenue already, so we can look into some financials. So that's the perfect stage that we are looking. We try to not to get too much into pre-seed startups, so really people who raise the first time funds, because that's very risky in the sense that also we need to have a filter and propose startups who more qualitatively startups on our platform. Therefore we try to go way maybe they need to raise a seed round, startups they need to raise a seed round. So once we looked at the financial, the data room, that then also with my co-founder we go into more into the legal side. So we look at the status of the company, we look at their shareholder agreement, we look if they have debts or other overhanging legal complexities. So we look into all that. Once basically all this is cleared out, then basically we actually prepare the fundraising campaign. But for us, it's very important that the startup has a community. So another thing, the startup already needs to have a community. So if you are a B2B startup, then maybe crowdfunding is not really the best idea. I mean, so it's crowdfunding, it really works as well if your startup has already a community or needs to build one, because yeah, that's basically that's really important as well.
Sure, agree with you. And do you foresee that in the future, tokenized equity will replace equity at all? And why do you think that can happen?
So the reason why this can happen is that, so as of today, if you are an investor in in a company, is I mean is there is a basically a piece of paper which tells you that you are an investor, and it's not really clear. Sometimes sometimes it's really, it sounds crazy, but it's not really clear if who is the investor. If you are still an investor, if you are not, is really not clear. It can be not clear if we get to a certain size of the company. It really can be hard to keep track of all the investors, of who exactly is on the cap table, who is not. It's especially even harder for bigger companies. They really have no clue who's on the cap table. I see. So the problem with tokenization is that it, it's a tokenization. What I always say is tokenization on its own is a marginal improvement. So that's why I don't think. I think that maybe in the long term, people will tokenize more their shares. Yes, but I don't expected these to be like a very drastic switch, because the improvement you get, it's good, but it's not like a 10x improvement. It's not that if you today you tokenize your shares, it's nice because you have more control. um, you can more easily include your external people to invest. Maybe your employees can have. So it's clearer, but it's not a 10x improvement on the current system. So that's the issue. Pure tokenization on its own. So that's why I if we only stay with tokenization, I don't expect this to be. But so we need another thing. We need something to make it 10x more efficient. So the reason why we tokenize is because then we can work with a decentralized exchange. That's the only reason why we tokenize shares, because then we can bootstrap this liquidity, which otherwise is literally impossible for startups. Like you have no liquidity. So we basically pass from a world where you have zero liquidity, you invest, and then you just wait 5 to 10 years, even more, to a world where actually you basically can trade it every day. And this, for our user base, for our investors, is a 10x improvement. So they are willing to, you know, to learn how to use a wallet, and also to try to understand about token and tokenized shares. And for the startup, of course, if the investor demand this, the startup who are seeking money and investments, they will kind of adapt. So even if they are not very excited maybe about tokenizing their shares, they will kind of adapt. Okay, if I can raise money in this way, then all the investor require me to do this, then I will do it. So these are the issues. And so I think that the best thing for tokenization is integrated tokenization with the DeFi applications, because that's what's really unique and makes the 10x improvement. Which tokenization on its own, I've been enough in the space to comfortably say that tokenization on its own is not essential.
Understood. Thank you. Very interesting. And do you plan to provide a white label solution? So maybe the companies like 3x Capital or other investment institution can use your service and do tokenization.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't because exactly the request has been still quite low. I mean, the request for tokenization of companies is really, I mean, in our experience, very low. So we haven't planned it yet, just because the request has been very low. Tokenization on its own, but yeah, I mean, if the demand will be there, we will definitely be there. I mean, for us, it will be quite easy and simple to do it. So definitely, if the demand is there, we will be offering.
Yeah, I love to see you receiving an approval for the Europe, and after this we can think
exactly.
about the next steps with white label solution, because I already spoke with the team. All partners are excited and would love to explore.
That's interesting. Amazing. That will be cool. Yeah, we can definitely have a chat about it and see how we can do it. Because I mean, there are also other countries that are getting up to speed with the regulation. In Germany and others, is just they are getting up to speed with this with the tokenization regulation, with a preparing a legal framework. It's just Switzerland has been the first country. they have the most complete and clear legal structure for tokenized assets. Yeah, but yeah.
Cool. And also, the last question from my side, what risks and potential downsides around startup tokenization we should be thoughtful of, like investors as well as startup founders? Maybe you can highlight few
Yeah,
risks that are not so obvious from the first point of view.
sure. So so there are some so on the startup side, so what we see in general is that what we are doing is really good for the investor. So like the investor is the one that benefits the most of all these thing. The investor is the one that benefits the most because at the end, startup they just want the money and actually they only care about it. But the investor, I mean, for them it's a big improvement if I know that I'm not gonna be locked for 8 years and I can trade if this was a crypto. Is a massive improvement, and that's so what we're doing is really a prone investors is a big advantage for investors. For the startup, having shares who are floating is not necessarily a big advantage. It's definitely not, actually, probably. Um, it's not a disadvantage probably, but it's not an advantage because potentially you could have investors coming later on and looking into the secondary market and say, hey, why should I pay this price if on the secondary market there is another price? Well, it's quite easy also because the shares that normally we have on the secondary market are I mean, they are not sometimes I mean, they can be decided whether there are no voting or voting shares. There is a syndication around. So I mean, and a VC will probably not be interested in just purchasing on the secondary market. I mean, this has to be seen. But anyway, I would say that the risk. I mean, we have. I mean, I would say that the risk are a little bit on the. So as we have seen, is on the DEX side. So there I see, some of the risk on the DeFi platform. Let's say that the smart contract risk and flash loan risk of this kind of attacks. If they can drain the pool, liquidity pool, then we kind of have a problem there. Like these are the problem that I foresee. Like let's say we see the liquidity, they find a hack to drain the liquidity pool and stuff like this. It will be quite of a mess. The good part on the other side, if investors have shares, tokenized shares on their wallet and they lose it, they can recover it because these are actual shares. They are not just tokens. They are not just tokens. These are actually shares of companies. And it's like basically if you lose access to your car, it's not that if you lose the key, you lose access to, I mean, you don't have your car anymore. You can take control again. And we have all the process to actually, you're going to have to go through a little legal procedure that we can handle. And basically, there's going to be a paper, we're going to have to fill it, where we're going to have to send it to a Swiss court and say that these shares were actually lost and that we can mint new shares for this person. So that's actually really good because even if you have on your wallet, you lose access, whatever happens, we can recover them. So you're still the owner.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you.
There is a whole process for that. Yes.
Yeah, that was very interesting conversation, and I think we should definitely write a newsletter about it or an article. So
absolutely, happy to do it. Honestly, I can help you draft it and prepare something also.
Thank you. I know that our community is very interested to learn more about that. So it would be great if we can think about something writing together.
Spectacular. We can prepare something together. Absolutely. Yeah.
It was a pleasure to have you today with us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I do not see some questions in the chat, but I think we have covered the main things like opportunities, the risks of tokenization of startup shares, and some other details. So I'm really every time I speak with you, I feel that I don't know a lot about this market, and I'm very curious person and want to discover more. So thank you for providing more information.
Sure. Really happy and exactly. And Thanks a lot for having me. It was a really interesting conversation, and love to talk about this topic. It's absolutely fascinating.
Sure, I see your passion. Thanks,
Yeah.
Francesco, for joining.
Thanks a lot, Ivan.
Yeah, bye bye, everyone.
Bye.